Hello, hope all is well, and I thought today we'd look at making a preset for the band Turnstile. Now, just a quick word about a kind of research I did to figure out what kind of, say, effects or the amps that are being used, and basically just used the internet and did some searches on, say, pedalboard amps and things like that. And then this came up, which was really useful. And in essence, Pat's Guitar Tech, I think, posted photos of the pedalboard build that is currently using. And then we can see that we have these pedals on the board itself, and then a few other photos as well, which are actually really useful. So we have the back of the board powered by chocks, and then these cables going to the patch bay on the side. And then on this photo, which is really useful, I think, because we see the codes that are being used for the patch bay. So green send, yellow return, I believe that's the effects loop of the amp. Blue goes to the front of the amp, and then red guitar is where the guitar would either plug in by cable, or maybe if you have a wireless unit, that wireless unit would plug into this right there. So if we go back to the first picture of the pedal board, we can see that the green wire, or i.e. the send from the effects loop of the amp, is coming in here. It's going to hit the super chorus and the electric mistress, the MXR carbon copy delay, the walrus slow, and then it's going back via the effects loop return, which you can see going there, back to the amp. In the front of the amp, I think it's the Supreme wire here, the Digitech Whammy Ricochet, followed by the tuner at the end there. And in terms of, well, amp and guitar, I took this from the performance they did on Jimmy Fallon. And there's a shot here where you can see, well, the Jackson guitar he's using, and you can also see the amp that he's currently using. So it's a PV65052, and you can kind of make out the settings as well, which is really useful. And that's going into an orange 4x12. Now the thing here, of course, is definitely use your ears when putting these things together. But the real thing is it can really help to kind of fill in the gaps for certain tones that you might be looking for, especially if you're unsure about what kind of effect, or at least what brand of effect is being used, and it can really help in really further dialing in the tone. Now the way I set this preset up was that I took that information essentially and put that within the preset to kind of lay things out to get the kind of tones that at least I'm hearing on the records. It won't be an exact match, but it'll get you more or less into that ballpark and have a better idea of what's going on when you're setting up your own presets for, say, artists that you really enjoy. Now what I tried to do with this preset is make some variations as well that might suit some of their older records, as well as put things together that suit some of the later records, as there is a difference in kind of tone and what's going on between, say, the first release and what they're doing now. Now what seems to be kind of like a mainstay would be the kind of PV5150 or 6505, and the citrus cab or the orange cab that I'm using here. I made a variation of this for the Glow On album in that I'm using the Rockaverb head, because that's kind of what I'm hearing in the tones of that record. I might be wrong, of course. These are just kind of ideas and a general direction or ballpark to get you into those kind of tones. And then for the cab, I'm using, well, it's the citrus or the orange 4x12 with a dynamic and a ribbon cab. And there might be some variations of that depending on which scene that you're using. And the way I sort of distributed the kind of scenes is that, well, there's this kind of like typical clean kind of sound with like chorus and delay. And the way the carbon copy works is that it's quite murky and you get this kind of modulation vibe to it as well. And then when you combine chorus with that, in this case I took the Boss CE2, you get this really kind of wavy kind of sound that kind of suits it quite well. The only thing I'm not entirely sure about is, say, the clean amp that might have been used on the record. Because I wasn't entirely sure about this, I thought I'd set it to what I saw on the video. That is a PV6505 Plus in the clean channel mode, reduce gain, and then EQ to taste. The gate that we have set up, and I'll link to the video that I did on setting up like a really tight metal gate, and I believe it's placed on the pedal board as well, so you can easily kind of turn it off should you want kind of feedback or something else from the amp. But the way I've set it up is that it's a really tight sidechain style gate, so it will knock off any kind of noise that you might be getting should be using some of the higher gain scenes. And finally, one important thing to know, well, there's no boost or drive pedal in front of the amp. So in essence, you're pretty much plugged straight into the front of the amp, and it's the pure kind of amp tone with different shades of gain to get you the kind of tones that, at least to my ears, are being played in those songs. In any case, it was a lot of fun to try and learn the kind of songs, as it has these really cool kind of syncopated rhythms to them, and also things or way of playing that I myself would definitely not have. It's not in my, I won't say wheelhouse, but it's, I think if you grow up with a certain kind of music, it's something that comes a lot more naturally than when you've heard it only maybe in the last 20 or so years of more actively listening to music, to put it that way. And these are things I think that can be really interesting and can add to your playing when you discover new bands and you try and dissect how they're playing and maybe how they're getting their tones. So something like this can be a really good kind of exercise in putting tones and presets together and, in essence, getting to know the gear that's being used a lot better. This preset, as always, is in my usual downloads, which is linked below. It's free or pay what you want. A huge thanks to anyone who leaves a small donation, as these do take quite a bit of time to put together, and it really helps out, especially with the channel. In any case, thanks a lot for watching. Hope to see you in the next video. Take care.